The city breathes a different rhythm now, a low, guttural hum that vibrates through the soles of your worn boots. It is a song of forgotten promises, of ambition curdled into rust. You feel it in the stale air of your cramped office, a single bulb casting a jaundiced glow on the peeling wallpaper. Dust motes dance in the weak light, each a tiny, mocking star in your diminished universe. Your desk, scarred like an old battlefield, holds the detritus of a life once sharp, now blunted, empty coffee cups, a stack of cold case files that gather more dust than answers, and the ghost of a badge you once wore with pride. You trace the faded lines of a photograph tucked beneath a forgotten invoice, her smile, bright and unburdened, a stark contrast to the shadows that cling to your own reflection in the grime-streaked window. Your daughter. The chasm between you, carved by your past, was wider than any river, deeper than any regret. You'd offered a dismissive grunt, a practiced shield against the hope she still held, the hope you'd long since abandoned. A sharp rap against the frosted glass of your door shatters the stillness. Not a client, not at this hour. The door creaks open, revealing the silhouette of a colleague, a fellow former officer, his face etched with a weariness that mirrored your own. The air grows heavy, thick with unspoken fear. Your focus narrows, the room receding into a blurry periphery. Vanished, the colleague states, his eyes scanning your face for a reaction you refuse to give. Her editor called. She missed her deadline, her phone's dead, apartment's empty. No note, no struggle. Just. He was found it on her desk, taped to her monitor. Addressed to you. He slides a small, tarnished brass compass across the desk. It spins once, catching the light, before settling. It feels cool beneath your fingertips, ancient and heavy with unspoken weight. Your daughter, ever the seeker of truth, had always carried a sense of direction, even when you had lost your own. You flip open the lid. Inside, etched subtly into the polished brass, almost imperceptible to the casual eye, is a single, stark word: cargo. A jolt of icy clarity shoots through you. Cargo. He had been digging into something dangerous, something that made the city's underbelly twitch. You had warned her, of course, with the detached cynicism of a man who had seen too much. You told her to be careful, knowing full well she wouldn't listen. And now, this. Anyone else know about this, you ask, your eyes still fixed on the compass, the word cargo burning into your retina. The colleague shakes his head. Just me and her editor. He thought it was some kind of cryptic message for a source, but then saw your name on the envelope. Figured you'd know. He studies you, a flicker of concern in his gaze. What is it, Grant? What was she into? You close the compass, the brass warm now from your grip. The metal feels like a promise, a burden, and a faint tremor of hope. This wasn't just a missing person, this was a trail, a breadcrumb left by a daughter who knew her father, despite everything, would follow. The city's hum changes key, no longer a lament, but a siren call. He was into the same thing that cost me my badge, you reply, your voice low, gravelly. The same thing that eats the city alive. You rise, the worn springs of your chair groaning in protest. Your eyes, once clouded by resignation, now hold the familiar glint of a hunter. She left me a lead. You grab your worn leather jacket, the weight of the compass in your pocket a constant presence. The image of her bright smile flashes in your mind, fueling a quiet fury. The port. The docks. The word cargo echoes in your head, a singular destination. This wasn't just about finding her, it was about tearing down the world that had swallowed her whole. The streets outside are a maze of flickering neon and damp asphalt. The scent of salt and diesel grows stronger as you drive, the city's concrete canyon slowly giving way to sprawling industrial zones. You navigate the labyrinthine roads, each turn bringing you closer to the water, to the sprawling complex that dominates the city's edge. The air crackles with an electric tension, the promise of danger is palpable as the fog rolling in from the bay. Finally, you pull up to the periphery of the port of entry cargo inspection bay. The rhythmic clang of distant machinery, the guttural roar of idling trucks, all create a symphony of industry and veiled secrets. This is where the city's true pulse beats, where fortunes are made and lives are broken, where the lines between legal and illegal blur into an indistinguishable gray. Your daughter was here. The city's breath, thick with diesel and brine, fills your lungs as you navigate the labyrinthine access roads leading to the port. The air vibrates with the low thrum of distant engines, a mechanical heartbeat against the vast, dark expanse of the water. Headlights cut through the pre-dawn gloom, painting fleeting streaks across the rain-slicked asphalt. Your grip tightens on the steering wheel, knuckles white, the worn leather cool beneath your touch. The compass in your pocket, a constant, heavy reminder, seems to pull you forward, a silent, unwavering guide. You pass a series of security checkpoints, each one a stark reminder of the world you once policed. The uniformed guards, their faces impassive beneath the brim of their caps, offer curt nods or dismissive waves. Your reputation, a tattered flag, still precedes you in these forgotten corners of the city. You are Grant, and in this underbelly, that name carries a peculiar weight, a ghost of authority, a whisper of past transgressions. It is an immense cathedral of industry, its corrugated metal walls scarred by years of salt spray and neglect. Floodlights cast harsh pools of yellow light onto the concrete expanse, illuminating stacks of shipping containers, a mosaic of rust and faded paint. The air here is sharp, metallic, tinged with the faint, sweet decay of distant cargo. You cut the engine, plunging the small cabin into a sudden, unsettling quiet, broken only by the distant clang of metal on metal. Her last message, fragmented and urgent, echoes cargo. It was a breadcrumb, a desperate plea for direction. The scale of the bay is overwhelming, a sprawling grid of potential hiding places. Finding a needle in this industrial haystack feels impossible, yet the alternative is unthinkable. You move with a practiced gait, a predator re-entering its old hunting grounds. Your eyes scan, not just for faces, but for patterns, for anomalies in the organized chaos. It's a dock foreman, a man named Silas, whose face is a roadmap of hard living and sleepless nights. You recognize the familiar slouch, the way he carries the weight of years on his shoulders. Silas owes you. A quiet word years ago saved his nephew from a stretch in a juvenile facility. Silas, you call out, your voice a low rumble in the vast space. He flinches, then turns, his eyes, roomy and tired, widening slightly in recognition. Grant! Thought you were a ghost these days. His voice is gravelly, tinged with surprise and a hint of apprehension. Some ghosts walk, you reply, closing the distance between you. Looking for a live one. He squints, assessing you, the unspoken history hanging heavy between you. What brings you to the salt mines? You ain't looking to book anyone, are you? My crew's clean. Not this time, you assure him, your gaze steady. My daughter. She's gone missing. He was poking around here, asking questions. The one with the notebook, always asking about manifests and schedules? He shakes his head slowly. Sharp kid. Too sharp for her own good, maybe. What did she ask about? You press, keeping your voice even, though a tremor of impatience runs beneath the surface. He takes a slow drag from a fresh cigarette, the cherry glowing briefly in the dim light. He was asking about the ghost shipments. The ones that come in, get processed, but don't quite show up on the official logs. Or they do, but the manifest is thin. Too thin for the size of the container. He gestures vaguely towards a far corner of the bay, where a cluster of older, unmarked containers sits slightly apart from the main stacks. Specifics she wanted. This sounded bigger than petty theft. This smelled of systemic rot. Did she find anything? Talk to anyone specific? Silas exhales a plume of smoke, his gaze drifting towards the unmarked containers. He was always hanging around that section. Asked old Manolo, the night watchman, a few times. He's a chatterbox, bless his heart, but he sees things. All marked industrial parts, but the weight was always off. Too light for the declared contents, or sometimes, too heavy for the minimal paperwork. A specific set of containers, a consistent discrepancy. This was a pattern, a meticulously orchestrated deception. Where would she have gone after that? Where would she have stashed her notes? Silas shrugs, then hesitates. He had a way of getting into places. Said she found a spot where he could see everything without being seen. An old maintenance tunnel, maybe? Runs under the main inspection bay. Not many know about it. Used to be for pipe access, but it's mostly forgotten now. He points towards a low, grimy steel door tucked beneath a massive ventilation shaft, almost invisible against the stained concrete. Manolo told her about it. Your daughter wasn't just investigating, he was watching, and someone knew. You thank Silas with a brief, curt nod, already moving towards the steel door. Your heart, once a dull ache, now beats with a frantic urgency. The air grows heavier, the industrial hum a menacing drone. You pull the compass from your pocket, its needle still quivering, pointing not to magnetic north, but to an invisible truth. This old maintenance tunnel, forgotten by most, might hold the key. It might also be the last place he was seen. This wasn't just a search, it was a descent. Your heart, once a dull ache, now beats a frantic tattoo against the cage of your ribs, a drum calling you forward. The steel door sighs shut behind you, sealing away the dim, hushed world of Silas's sanctuary. You move through a labyrinth of service corridors, the air growing colder, heavier, until the sudden blast of a raw wind assaults you. The space swallows sound, leaving only the metallic clang of distant cranes, the guttural roar of idling engines, and the high-pitched shriek of gulls circling unseen above. The air here tastes of rust and brine, a thick, coppery tang that coats your tongue. Towering stacks of containers, painted in a brutalist palette of industrial blues and faded reds, cast long, distorted shadows that stretch like grasping fingers across the concrete floor. Forklifts, like mechanical insects, scuttle between the monolithic blocks, their amber light sweeping through the dust-laden air. This is where goods arrive, where they are supposed to be vetted, counted, and cleared. You look for the signs of what isn't there, the subtle disruptions that betray an illicit passage. You note the placement of surveillance cameras, many of them angled slightly askew, or with lenses smudged just enough to blur crucial details. You observe the rhythm of the workers, searching for an anomaly, a break in the practiced monotony. These are for specific, often sensitive, cargo. You move with a practiced gait, a ghost among the working drones, towards a less trafficked section, near a forgotten loading dock where the light struggles to penetrate the grime. Here, the electronic manifests are often spot-checked, sometimes less so. You're looking for a digital footprint that doesn't match a physical one, a phantom entry or a deleted record. The scent of stale coffee and a familiar, bitter aftershave precedes him. Well, well. Look what the tide dragged in. The voice is a gravelly rumble, edged with a weariness you know too well. You turn slowly. Standing there, hands tucked into the pockets of a worn, official-issue jacket, is the senior customs agent. His eyes, once sharp, now hold a perpetually haunted glint. He was your partner, in a different life, a different uniform, before. The fall. Some things never change. Some things always do, you counter, your voice tight, eyes flicking to the console, then back to him. Like the smell of rot around this place. His gaze hardens, losing its pretense of casual banter. You're chasing ghosts again, aren't you? The Riverbend affair. That's what this smells like. The same slime, just a new coat of paint. The Riverbend affair. The words strike you like a physical blow. It was the case that broke you, a sprawling conspiracy of forged manifests, bypassed inspections, and a network of corrupt officials that reached into the highest echelons of the city's power structure. You'd seen the evidence, the connections, but the system had closed ranks, leaving you exposed, discredited. My daughter was asking questions, you state, the confession hanging heavy in the air. About ghost shipments. About this port. The senior customs agent's jaw tightens. He wasn't just asking, Grant. He was digging. And he was getting close. Your daughter, retracing your most painful steps. What did she find? He shakes his head, a grim resignation in his eyes. But enough to draw attention. The same kind of attention that made your badge disappear. He pulls a folded, grimy piece of paper from his pocket, pressing it into your hand. It's a single, crudely drawn symbol, a coiled serpent devouring its own tail. She left this for me. Said if anything happened, I'd know what it meant. It's the old mark, Grant. The one from Riverbend. The one we could never pin down. Your fingers clench around the paper. The serpent, an ancient emblem of renewal, but in this context, it speaks of an endless, self-consuming corruption. To see it again, now, linked to your daughter, sends a jolt of ice through your blood. They're still here, aren't they, you murmur, the question more a statement. Always were, he replies, his voice a strained rasp. Just deeper in the walls. You think you're smart, Grant? You think you can waltz back in and play the hero? They know you're here. They've known since you started asking about your daughter. That's not oil, Grant. That's fresh sealant. Someone patched a crack there, recently. A small, specific crack, right where a camera should have been focused. And there's a new relay box, barely visible, tucked behind that stack of pallets. It wasn't there yesterday. Your eyes follow his gaze. The sealant, still slightly tacky to the touch, and the discreetly placed relay box, a tiny, silent sentinel. It's a message, clear as a bell. They're watching. They're aware. And they're sending a direct warning through the very infrastructure of the port. Walk away, Grant, the senior customs agent urges, his voice now devoid of any lingering camaraderie, replaced by a desperate plea. For your own sake, for hers. You can't fight this hydra. It'll just grow new heads, and you'll be crushed beneath them. Again. But the serpent in your hand, the fresh sealant, the hidden relay box, they are not just warnings. They are clues. They are breadcrumbs leading deeper into the labyrinth, a path your daughter had already taken. And for the first time in years, the determination that had been dulled by defeat flares hot and bright within you. You are not walking away. The serpent, cold and inert in your palm, is a promise whispered in the dark. Its scales, meticulously carved, speak of an allegiance, a brand. The fresh sealant, still tacky to your touch on the hidden relay box, hums with recent activity, a digital pulse in the city's concrete veins. Your daughter found this. She followed this thread. And now, so will you. Your first stop is a dusty archive, a place where the city's forgotten whispers are catalogued. You pore over old case files, the kind that never quite closed, the ones that hinted at a deeper rot. The serpent symbol, a stylized Ouroboros devouring its own tail, appears twice in faded photographs, once on the arm of a low-level enforcer. Connected to a forgotten dockland dispute, and again, etched into a crate seized years ago in an abortive smuggling operation. The common thread, thin as a spider silk, leads to the sprawling, labyrinthine expanse of the city's waterfront. The sealant, too, offers its own silent testimony. A quick consultation with a grizzled former colleague, now running a small hardware supply, confirms your suspicion. Marine grade, the colleague grunts, wiping grease from his hands. High pressure, saltwater resistance. Only a few outfits use this specific blend, mostly for specialized cargo containers or, anything that's going to spend a lot of time exposed to the elements down at the docks. He gives you a name. A supplier with a monopoly on such materials, a name that, predictably, is tied to a holding company with opaque ownership. The trail, once a faint scent, now thickens into a palpable odor of salt, diesel, and corruption. The air here is a cacophony of groaning cranes, shrieking gulls, and the ceaseless rumble of heavy machinery. Steel leviathans, laden with containers stacked like a child's forgotten blocks, loom against a bruised sky. You navigate the maze of colossal crates, each one a sealed mystery, past the skeletal frames of gantries that claw at the heavens. The inspection bay itself is a vast, echoing hangar, fluorescent lights casting a sickly yellow glow on the meticulous chaos. Uniformed guards, their faces impassive, patrol the perimeter. You skirt the official channels, opting for the shadowed alleys between warehouses, a ghost in the periphery. Your eyes scan for the familiar, for the out-of-place. The serpent, the sealant, the memory of your daughter's fierce ambition, they are your compass. You spot him, the shift supervisor, a man whose slumped shoulders carry the weight of too many early mornings and late nights. He's overseeing a team unloading a container, his gaze darting nervously. His uniform, though clean, seems to sag, much like his spirit. He looks like a man who has seen too much, and said too little. You begin, a practiced line. But sometimes, even the tightest ships have leaks. The shift supervisor flinches, his eyes, the color of weak coffee. Darting to yours. What do you want? He asks, his voice raspy, laced with a weariness that goes beyond physical fatigue. A name. You say, cutting to the chase. A symbol. A serpent. It's been seen around here, on certain shipments. Special cargo. Anything come through lately that fits the description? Anything. Off? He hesitates, his gaze sweeping the bay, as if expecting unseen eyes to pierce the metal walls. His jaw tightens. Look, I just move boxes, he mutters, turning away. I don't ask questions. Your daughter asked questions, you press, knowing the risk, watching his reaction. The mention of your daughter, the journalist, hits him. Last week. Marked agricultural equipment. Came in late, went out faster. No inspection. A priority code I'd never seen before. And a small, metal serpent, welded onto the base of the container. Not on the manifest. He swallows hard. A different crew handled it. The night crew. Supervisor. A man named Reyes. He disappeared a few days ago. Just gone. The air crackles. Reyes and the container. Where was it headed? Local distribution point, he replies, his voice cracking. But the papers. They looked like a ghost manifest. All legitimate, but the addresses, the companies. They felt like placeholders. They called in sick. All of them. Except for one. A young loader, fresh off the boat. Kid named Leo. He seemed rattled. He points vaguely towards a far corner of the bay, where a lone figure is struggling with a heavy tarp. He's still here. Probably too scared to leave. You nod, a silent thanks, and turn, your stride purposeful. The foreman watches you go, his face etched with a silent plea for you to succeed, or perhaps, just to survive. It's not the usual clang of metal, but something heavier, softer, yet utterly final. You spin around. The foreman, the man who just gave you Reyes's name, the man who pointed you towards Leo, is sprawled on the concrete. A massive cargo hook, usually suspended high above, dangles menacingly low, swaying slightly. His eyes, fixed on the ceiling, are wide, unseeing. A terrible clarity descends. This wasn't an accident. This was a message. A swift, brutal silencing. The serpent, the sealant, the port, the vanished Reyes, and now this dead man, they are all threads in a tapestry woven by unseen hands, a tapestry that now threatens to choke the life out of everything you hold dear. You are halfway across the vast floor, the image of Reyes, vanished, and the ghost manifest burning in your mind, when a sudden, sharp glint catches your eye. It's the small, stylized anchor symbol your daughter etched into everything she owned, a personal sigil, a silent challenge. It's too deliberate to be accidental. Your pace quickens, a new urgency tightening your chest. The anchor leads you to a grimy, forgotten corner, where a single, heavy-duty shipping crate sits apart from the others, subtly marked with the same symbol, almost invisible to an untrained eye. A new pulse thrums in your veins. This isn't just about Reyes anymore. This is about her. The crate is secured with a standard customs seal, unbroken. A misdirection. You inspect the corners, run your fingers along the rough wood, seeking an imperfection. Near the base, where the metal banding meets the timber, a faint scratch, almost a hairline fracture, reveals a cleverly disguised seam. Your daughter's meticulousness, a trait she inherited from you, now guides your hand. You produce a slim, specialized pry tool from your coat, the kind that feels like an extension of your will. With practiced movements, you work the seam, a low groan of wood and metal echoing in the cavernous space. The panel gives way, revealing not the expected cargo, but a narrow, dark void. You reach in, your fingers brushing against cold, smooth plastic. A waterproof satchel. Inside, a small, solid-state drive, cool and heavy in your palm, and a folded note, written in her familiar, looping script. If you find this, Dad, it means I ran out of time. The port. Crate 7B. The old system, recycled. Check the manifests for anything routed through the Golden Gate Logistics front. It's bigger than we thought. He's back. A name you haven't dared to whisper in years, a shadow from your deepest regrets, now claws at the edges of your mind. The drive, a key piece of her investigation, hums faintly with untold secrets. You pocket it, the note clutched tight. Cranes loom like skeletal giants, their hooks poised over mountains of stacked containers. The air hangs thick with the tang of salt, diesel, and the metallic scent of industry. You navigate the narrow lanes between container stacks, the rumble of unseen machinery vibrating through the ground. Each numbered box is a potential hiding place, a silent witness. The coordinates lead you to a specific sector, a cluster of oversized containers awaiting inspection. Your gaze sweeps across the grimy surfaces, searching for any subtle anomaly, a sign. The air crackles with an unspoken tension, the kind that precedes a storm. A single, isolated container, painted a muted olive green, stands out. It bears the faded stencil of Golden Gate Logistics. You approach it, your hand instinctively going to the utility knife at your hip. This isn't just a container, it's a vault, a silent archive of her last desperate findings. A key code. You retrieve a small, specialized scanner from your kit, a device designed to read the faint magnetic imprints left by key turns. The shackle springs open with a metallic sigh. Inside, the container is surprisingly bare, save for a single, heavy wooden crate pushed against the far wall. It's marked Fragile Electronics. Too pristine for the general grime of the bay. You pry it open. Instead of circuit boards or wiring, you find a false bottom. Beneath it, a secure, padded compartment. Within the compartment, a small, hardened laptop, still powered, its screen glowing faintly. This is it. Her hidden work. You open the laptop. The screen displays a single, open file, a scanned image of a handwritten ledger. Your breath hitches. The names. The dates. They are not new. They are the ghosts of your past, the architects of your downfall. The very same figures who orchestrated the framing that cost you everything, now listed in connection with a vast network of illicit cargo and influence peddling, all routed through this very port. And then, the betrayal. A recent photograph embedded within the ledger. Beside her, a figure whose face you know intimately, whose voice once offered solace and counsel. Captain Davies, your former precinct commander, the man who spoke at your disciplinary hearing, his face a mask of false sympathy. He is holding a file, its cover partially obscured, but the crest of the city's internal affairs is unmistakable. He is not merely present, his posture, the way his hand rests on her shoulder, is possessive, controlling. Davies. The man you trusted, the man who vouched for your integrity even as he signed the papers that stripped you of it. He was a part of it then, and he is a part of it now. The pieces of your shattered past begin to reassemble themselves, forming a monstrous, coherent whole. Your own ruin was not an isolated incident, it was a calculated move within this larger, festering conspiracy. Your daughter stumbled upon the very core of the rot that consumed your life. The laptop screen flickers, a new email notification appearing. The building is the safe house your daughter used, the one only a handful of people knew about. And the sedan, you recognize it. It belongs to Davies. The betrayal is complete, agonizingly real. You are not just chasing a conspiracy, you are chasing a ghost from your past, a man you once respected, who now holds your daughter's fate in his treacherous hands. The air in the container grows heavy, suffocating. You are no longer just an investigator. You are a predator, and your prey has just revealed himself. The city's pulse throbs in the distance, a dull counterpoint to the salt-laced wind whipping through the concrete canyons of the docklands. Your breath plumes in the cool air, a visible testament to the tension coiling in your gut. The air, a metallic tang of brine and exhaust, fills your lungs. This place hums with a false quiet, the kind that precedes a sudden storm. You pass through a gap between two towering stacks, their numbers stenciled in faded black, and the vast, open bay spreads before you. No one. Just the rhythmic slap of water against the distant pier, the distant hoot of a ship's horn. The sheer scale of the bay swallow sound makes your own footsteps echo too loudly on the oil-stained concrete. Your hand drifts to the worn grip of the pistol tucked beneath your jacket, a familiar weight, a cold comfort. This is too easy. This is a trap. You knew it the moment you read the single word, port, on the note. A glint of reflected light catches your eye, not from a floodlight, but from something smaller, lower. Headlights flash, brief and blinding, then cut out, plunging the area back into a deceptive dimness. Figures emerge from the vehicle, moving with a practiced, predatory grace. 3 of them. You don't run. You don't hide. You stand your ground, a weathered oak against an approaching gale. Your eyes, honed by years of navigating the city's underbelly, assess their approach. They fan out, cutting off your escape routes with silent efficiency. One of them, a broad-shouldered enforcer with a face like carved granite, steps forward, a heavy length of pipe swinging idly in his hand. Grant, the enforcer's voice is a low rumble, devoid of inflection. Expected you. Your gaze sweeps past him, searching for the puppet master, the one pulling these strings. You see no one else. Where is she, you demand, your voice cutting through the bay's vastness, raw with paternal fury. Impatient. He likes patience. He gestures with the pipe, a silent command. The 2 others advance, flanking you. You move first, a blur of motion, feinting left, then driving your elbow into the gut of the closest attacker. He gasps, stumbles back, but the second one is already there, a fist connecting with your temple. The world spins for a dizzying moment, a constellation of stars bursting behind your eyes. You drop to one knee, shaking your head to clear the fog, tasting blood. Before you can recover, the enforcer's pipe crashes down, not on your head, but across your arm, a sickening crack echoing in the cavernous space. Pain flares, hot and immediate, radiating from your forearm. Your pistol clatters from your numb fingers. Rough hand sees you, hoisting you upright. You struggle, a desperate surge of adrenaline, but the numbers are against you. They bind your wrists with zip ties, painfully tight, behind your back. You are pushed, shoved toward a smaller, isolated container, a makeshift office, perhaps, or an interrogation room. Inside, the air is stale, thick with the smell of cheap coffee and old paper. Behind a metal desk, a man sits, his face obscured by the angle and the shadow cast by his fedora. He sips from a ceramic mug, a picture of calm detachment. Grant, the man's voice is smooth, cultivated, yet it carries an undercurrent of steel. It's a voice you haven't heard in years, a voice that once promised justice, then delivered betrayal. He. Still as predictable as ever. A father's love, a daughter's peril. A classic. You stare, disbelief warring with a burning rage. You manage, the word a rasp. All this time. It was you. He sets down his mug with a soft clink. Indeed. A long game, Grant. One you walked away from, much to my disappointment. Your daughter, however, proved more persistent. More. He was getting too close to the source, to the network of untraceable shipments. He stumbled onto the ghost fleet, Grant. The vessels that vanish from manifest records, only to reappear with their cargo laundered through a dozen shell companies. The commander pauses, watching your face, savoring the shock. And that little drive you're carrying? The one with all her meticulous research? That's what interests me. Not your sentimental journey. Not your desperate quest. Just the data. The realization hits you with the force of a physical blow. Your daughter wasn't just investigating corruption, he was tracking his personal empire, built on the very docks you now stood upon. Until you decide to be cooperative. Until you hand over that drive, Grant. Because without it, her discoveries are useless. And so is she. He gestures to the enforcer. Search him. As the enforcer's rough hands pat down your jacket, you know this is your moment. You have the intel. You know the scope. Now, you just have to survive. You have to get out. You have to find her. And the drive, humming its secrets, remains hidden, a silent defiance against the man who had torn your world apart twice over. The enforcer's rough hands pat down your jacket, a cold sweep over worn fabric. His fingers brush the hidden drive, a whisper against your ribs. Time slows. This is the precipice. This is the moment where the hunter becomes the hunted, where the game shifts. You breathe, a shallow intake of dust and stale air. Then, a sudden, violent pivot. Your elbow connects, a jarring impact against bone and gristle. The enforcer grunts, a surprised gasp escaping his lips. The momentary disorientation is all you need. You duck low, a ghost of the man you once were, slipping beneath his outstretched arm. The two other figures, closing in, stumble over each other in the confined space. The thud of heavy boots echoes behind you, a relentless drumbeat against the concrete. You don't look back. You can't. Cranes loom, skeletal giants against a bruised twilight sky. You scramble up a discarded pallet, over a chain-link fence, the metal rasping against your coat. The chase continues, a desperate dance through the labyrinthine aisles of parked semi-trucks, their trailers like sleeping beasts. Your breath rasps in your throat, a ragged sound, but a fierce. Determination burns in your chest. You have the intel. You have to get out. You have to find her. You slump against corrugated steel, heart hammering against your ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. The distant shouts of your pursuers fade, swallowed by the vastness of the port. You pull out the small, encrypted drive, its cool metal a stark contrast to your feverish skin. A burner laptop, retrieved from a hidden compartment in your bag, hums to life. Fingers, steady despite the tremor in your hands, navigate the interface. The encryption peels back, layer by agonizing layer, revealing a torrent of data. Shell corporations, numbered accounts, shipping manifests detailing fictitious cargo. A web of financial manipulation so intricate it could only be spun by a master architect. You trace the threads, following the money, the false declarations, the carefully orchestrated delays. But it's the secondary files, fragmented and seemingly innocuous, that seize your attention. Your daughter's distinct digital watermark, a small, almost invisible signature, appears on a series of communication logs. Coded messages, not about finances, but about locations. A pattern emerges, coordinates, seemingly random, but when cross-referenced with the shipping manifests, they point to specific containers. It links to a container marked agricultural equipment, a blatant lie, and its final destination is not the declared warehouse, but an abandoned factory on the city's neglected industrial fringe. The architect. The chairman. His operation, his empire, built on the very docks you now stand upon. This isn't just about money, it's about control, about silencing anyone who dares to expose the rot. And your daughter, intrepid and fearless, had dared. You move, a renewed purpose in your stride, the laptop tucked securely away. Forklifts rumble, their lights cutting swathes through the gloom. The air thrums with the vibration of heavy machinery and the distant groan of a ship's horn. He is there. Not alone, but surrounded by a small retinue of watchful figures, standing near a freshly opened container. He gestures, a sharp, imperious movement, towards the contents of the container, not agricultural equipment, but rows of sealed, nondescript crates. Contraband. The full scope of his operation, laid bare. You approach, a silent predator, using the noise of the bay to mask your presence. He calls out, a harsh warning swallowed by the din. The architect chuckles, a dry, humorless sound. Impatient, aren't we? She's safe for now. Brave. Foolish. Like her father. You ignore the taunt, your gaze fixed on his. Tell me. Or what, old man? You'll arrest me? Your badge is long gone, Grant. Your authority, a memory. He signals to his figures, who begin to fan out, closing the distance. It's a pity. You could have lived out your days in quiet obscurity. He pulls a small, silver object from his pocket, turning it over in his fingers. It's a key, distinctive, with a tarnished, bird-shaped fob. He's at the old factory, Grant. The one with the broken clock tower. She's been quite insistent on waiting for you there. The words are a twisted gift, a cruel confirmation. The bird-shaped key fob glints in the artificial light, a detail that perfectly matches a drawing your daughter made as a child, a secret place, a hidden room only she knew about in the abandoned factory. He wanted you to know. As his figures surge forward, you move. A desperate, calculated lunge, not towards the architect, but towards the nearest forklift. The engine sputters, then roars to life. The architect shouts, his calm facade cracking. Crates tumble, alarms wail, and the figures scatter. The factory with the broken clock tower. Her childhood drawing. The key. You know where he is. The odds are overwhelming, the architect's network vast, but the image of her face, defiant and determined, burns in your mind. You will not fail her. Not again. The forklift screams across the concrete, carrying you towards the unknown, towards the final, desperate rescue. The figures surge, shadows stretching long and distorted under the flickering bulb. You don't fight, not yet. Your hand, swift and precise, snatches the bird-shaped key fob from the floor, its metallic chill a promise against your palm. The alley mouth beckons, a sliver of freedom. They give chase, their heavy boots thudding against the grimy pavement, but you are already a ghost in the urban labyrinth, disappearing into the city's exhale. The abandoned factory stands like a skeletal titan against the bruised dawn sky. Rust weeps from its corrugated iron skin, and the wind whistles through shattered windows, a mournful dirge. You slip inside, the air thick with the dust of forgotten industry and the scent of damp concrete. You move with a hunter's stealth, your senses alive, your past echoing in the vast emptiness. You find it, tucked away behind a stack of rusted machinery, a steel door, almost invisible in the grime, scarred with years of neglect. The door groans open, revealing not a hidden room, but a small, cramped space, a makeshift sanctuary. A discarded blanket lies crumpled in one corner, a half-eaten energy bar beside it. On the floor, meticulously taped down, is a single, smudged photograph. It's your daughter. Her face, pale and strained, looks up at a massive cargo container, its serial number clearly visible, MSC Atlantis 78345. Beside it, scrawled in her familiar, hurried hand, are two words, port. She wasn't hiding here. He was imprisoned here, and she left you a breadcrumb. A surge of fierce hope, sharp as broken glass, cuts through the despair. She's alive. She's fighting. Cranes creak and groan, lifting colossal containers from the bellies of ships, their metallic clang echoing across the vast expanse. Forklifts buzz, their yellow lights cutting through the pre-dawn gloom, ferrying goods like diligent worker bees. You locate MSC Atlantis 78345, a behemoth of steel, its side emblazoned with the shipping line's logo. It sits isolated, a silent sentinel, within Base 17, a designated inspection zone. As you approach, a guard, a hulking shape in a drab uniform, steps out from behind the container, rifle slung low. He spots you, his eyes narrowing. Hold it right there. I'm here for my daughter, you state, your voice cutting through the industrial din, calm despite the tempest raging within. Always the ghost in the machine. A pity you couldn't stay buried. Where is she, you demand, your eyes locked on his, ignoring the guard's raised weapon. He chuckles, a dry, rustling sound. A minor inconvenience. She dug too deep, as did you. Foolish of her to think he could expose the gears that truly turn this city. He gestures vaguely towards the container. She's inside, along with her evidence. Soon to be on a one-way trip to oblivion. The guard advances, his rifle now aimed squarely at your chest. You move, not towards the guard, but towards the official, a sudden, desperate lunge. The guard shouts, pulling the trigger. The shot echoes, deafening, but you are already past him, a phantom of your former self, grappling with the official. He's weaker than you expected, soft from years of command, not combat. You slam him against the steel wall of the container, the impact rattling his teeth. Open it. Now. Never, he gasps, struggling, his face contorted in a mix of fear and defiance. This city belongs to us. Another detective, a woman with weary but resolute eyes, stands beside him, her own weapon steady. The guard hesitates, caught between loyalty and the immediate threat. The official, seeing the reinforcements, his face paling, tries to twist free. They're with me. He's a rogue. We know who he is, the lead detective states, his gaze unwavering. And we know who you are. The anonymous tip, the leaked files. It all led here. You don't wait. With a surge of adrenaline, you force the official's hand towards a digital keypad on the container. His fingers, trembling, key in a code under your relentless pressure. The heavy door hisses, then groans open. Inside, your daughter sits. Huddled, eyes wide with fear, but a spark of defiant fire still burns within them. She looks up, sees you, and a sob tears from her throat. Dad! You pull her into your arms, a torrent of relief washing over you, potent and raw. She's thin, bruised, but she's alive. She grips you tightly, burying her face in your shoulder. The official, now subdued by the detectives, glares at you, a promise of future retribution in his eyes. This changes nothing, Grant. The system is too big, too entrenched. Maybe, you concede, holding your daughter closer, her trembling easing against your chest. But it changes this. And sometimes, that's enough. The detectives move in, securing the scene, their questions already beginning. Your daughter, though shaken, begins to recount her ordeal, her journalist's precision still intact, detailing the web of corruption, the names, the dates, the illicit shipments. The conspiracy, vast and insidious, begins to unravel, piece by painful piece. You stand there, the cool sea breeze a balm on your face, the sounds of the port now a distant hum. The weight of your past, the ghost of your old badge, still lingers, but it is lighter now. You saved her. Justice, in this moment, feels like a fragile, hard-won victory. The scars will remain, etched deep, but so too will the quiet, fierce understanding that the fight is never truly over. It simply waits for the next dawn.